Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode on the HydroSmp. This is a very exciting episode because we have officially reached episode 5 in this series. This is my first series with 5 episodes, so it is very exciting for us. What we're going to start off with today is we are actually going to start off with some resource gathering down in the mines. I want to collect a ton of materials for future projects and for our project today, and I did get a beacon all set up down there, so we are going to do a quick little time lapse of some resource gathering, and we'll see you all in a little bit. Now that we have a bunch of resources gathered from that mining adventure, we have plenty of materials to start our brand new project. We have gathered a bunch of stone, andesite, deep slate, and some granite, so we have plenty of materials for this project and our future projects. But what we're going to do is we are going to fly over on this side of our kingdom, and we're kind of going to plan out what we're going to build here. This side of our kingdom is kind of going to act as the front side, or where we are going to view our kingdom from. So it's kind of going to give us that outlook, or just the picture quality view. Excuse me, sir. But anyways, as we walk through here, this little sunflower field, we are going to be approaching our kingdom from this side, and then we'll have that village around the back. And you can kind of see where I started planning out our castle area. It's going to be over in this area as well, and this will connect into our castle area once we get there. But for now, I think what I want to do is I want to kind of start working on a little pathway that kind of comes from over these hills over here and kind of heads into our kingdom. So what I'm actually going to do is we're going to head in free cam real quick. And we are going to plan to start, I think I want to make an entrance gate kind of in this area here, and kind of have like a path going here all the way up our mountain, kind of entering our kingdom a little bit. We might even make the path come around the side this way, just so we don't have to go into the mountain too much, because we do have these natural waterfalls as well as this cliff face that I don't want to kind of ruin too much. But for now, we are going to hopefully kind of mark out where we want this gate to be. I want a larger entrance gate for the side, and then we'll kind of have walls and towers surrounding our kingdom as well. But for this episode, I think we are just going to start with that gateway here. For our area, we kind of have banners marked out back here. And I do want to have a little bit of distance from our banner line to where our entrance gate is, just so we can kind of have some room to do some other landscaping or build some houses on either side of the gate when we want to do that. So I think I'm going to make the entrance gate kind of around this area right here, so we can still see our towers and where our castle is going to be from the entrance gate as we walk to our kingdom. But it's not too far away where it's out of render distance. So for my plan for this tower, we want to make 2 separate pillars kind of on either end of our gate. I kind of want to make it in the center of this little area here. So I think where we're standing right now should be okay. I might actually make it where these 2 trees are, because I think that they are actually right where I want my tower to be. So we're going to head over to these trees. And I'm just going to kind of mark out a little bit of a layout so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about when we are going to be making this gateway. We're going to go out from the tree here. The tree is going to act as our center point for the moment. We'll break it in a little bit. So we have 4 and we have 3. I think I'm going to go out. We're going to do 4 on each side. And then we're going to go out this way 4. Switch that to my silk touch here. And then we're going to do this side 4 as well. And then we should be able to have 3 on the ends. Typically when I build, I like to build in odds so we can have more of a more parallel when we make the windows and whatnot. But for these, we want smaller towers, but not too small. Whoops. So we want it big enough to be seen from a distance, but not too big, where it draws attention away from the main center point here. Oops. Do 2 here. And then we will head over to that other tree. Actually, this might be too far away. I think in the center I want to go for 13 or 15. We'll do 15. And then we will do our other tower here. Perfect. And we'll kind of go in free cam real quick to kind of see how that's looking. I do think it's a little bit smaller than I thought, so we might go a little bit bigger yet. But we'll definitely have to do some terraforming and some landscape work as well. But for now, I'm going to kind of figure out a little bit more of a layout for this. What it's going to be is we're going to have 2 pillars on either side and then kind of like a big archway in the center. It would be nice if we could have like some little lookouts, maybe put some armor stands with some people up there as kind of acting like guards as we enter our kingdom. But we're going to do a little bit of plan work and then we're going to jump right into a time lapse while we build this up, and we'll catch you all in a little bit. We are back with an amazing start to our gateway here. As you can see, our tower is peeking through the center there, and we have a great foundation all set up for our gateway. What we're going to do now is we are actually going to head back to the base and kind of see what blocks we have to work with. I still have to do another layer on top with some kind of roofs. I kind of want to have it resembling our watchtower over there. So we'll kind of probably use more of that calcite granite look that we had over there on that side, just to kind of keep the color scheme around the kingdom. I am going to have to put an archway here still, and we're going to add a bunch of details to our little towers here. So they're not quite done yet, but it definitely gives us a good sense of scale and then kind of helps us with the layout of our gateway. But as we walk through, we can kind of see our watchtower rendered in, and then we can also see where our castle is going to be as well. And this kind of picture frames where our kingdom is going to be, so I think it's going to be a really nice lookout or a viewpoint as we enter our kingdom. But we're going to fly back to our base, check in our storage room to see if we have plenty of granite or if we're going to have to go mine some more. I do know I'm running low on calcite though, so I might have to gather some more calcite and maybe some spruce as well. But we're going to kind of see what we have to work with here. I hopefully want to get a nice dirt pathway all set up to our little watchtower as well, but we're kind of flying around for now. See what we do have quite a bit of calcite and some leftover granite still. We have a bunch of polished and diorite as well, and some andesite polished. For regular granite, I don't have a ton. I gathered some when I went mining at the beginning of the video, so we might have enough there. And for the roof, I might do deep slate again. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for the roof yet, but I do want to add those little blue flags that we kind of have at the top of this tower. I kind of want to have these spread out around the kingdom as well. And we might add some little happy trees around our little kingdom as well, but we can kind of see our gate from a distance, and I think it's looking really nice for what it is. It's just the start of it for now, but once we get those details and those extra bits put in, the build will really start coming together. But we are going to take our granite, and I think I'm gonna do a calcite layer first, kind of like how our big tower is on this. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do a calcite layer yet or if it's going to look too tall, but I kind of want to do at least a thin little layer, just kind of dividing the stone from the granite. But we're going to head back over there, continue working on our gateway, and we will hopefully be back with a ton of more details and a finished product. We are back and the gateway is finally complete. You may notice that the top bits weren't included in the time lapse, but we did get them done. I did record it, but I don't know what happened to the recording, but we'll go ahead and do a little review about what kind of went on and what little details we ended up putting in our gateway here. You can kind of see as we start at the bottom, we have those little deep slate bits with the deep slate walls kind of giving that extra texture. We added those little windows in the middle there. We ended up putting that calcite diorite ring around the top bit, the granite mixture in the walls on the tower, and then we did go ahead and use that deep slate roof like the gateway that we did over there. Like I said previously, I kind of wanted this gateway entrance to match our watchtower and our overall kingdom theme, so using the same color palette really helps bring that theme together as we travel around our kingdom. We can see we added the little tiny blue flags on top. They're a lot smaller than the bigger flags just because the towers are smaller than the watchtower. But I feel like this came together really nicely, and as we kind of look, we can see how it's picture framing our area here. I think it is a nice addition to our kingdom here. We do want to add kind of a pathway going through the center of this and around our kingdom, so then we can kind of walk through as we approach our castle and our watchtower here. And I just really love how this came together. It's not the biggest build, not the most detailed build, but I really love it in our kingdom here. What we're going to do now is we're going to kind of plan out where we want the pathway in between our little gateway here. We have plenty of this area to work with around here. We'll kind of fly out and do a larger view to kind of see the sense of land that we have to work with here. I kind of want these roads to be more of a natural look versus a stone look, just to kind of blend in with the terrain a little bit more, because I don't want the roads to draw too much attention from the buildings, but I still want those pathways connecting all of our areas, even though we can just fly around. Having roads or paths kind of bring the builds together and add more of that sense of life within your builds. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually fly back to our tower real quick, overlooking all of the land here. As we fly over our area here, we can kind of get a sense of how big the land is and kind of map out where these pathways are going to be. I do want it large enough to kind of match the scales that we have to work with. Where like if we had too thin of a path, it would look kind of weird compared to how wide our gateway is here. So the path will definitely have to match how wide our gate is here. But we'll fly up here real quick and we'll kind of overlook our land here. We can see our tower in the distance still. But we have a ton of land to work with. I haven't really decided if I want to go over our little river here or go around it. But what I did is I went ahead and I gathered a bunch of materials, including concrete powder, coarse dirt, and some of that packed mud as well. Kind of sticking with that brown themed. And then I also got some azalea leaves and some of that regular dirt to kind of mix in some greenery in our path as well, as we don't want it to be too brown, but we still want to have those little garden areas. We're going to go through and we're going to actually cover all of these little holes up because we don't want to randomly be falling in caves as we are going through our path here. I will go back through and light that up because I do know it will spawn a bunch of mobs, but for now we're just going to cover it up so we don't fall in it. We're going to clear all of these grass bits and the sunflowers. Excuse me. These darn skeletons. Anyways, we're going to continue breaking all the sunflowers and grass now that we killed that skeleton. We're just gonna kind of even out the terrain a little bit just because it is a little bit rugged here. We'll start our flashback recording there so we can get that in our time-lapse video. But we will continue making this flat enough for our little pathway. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of start planning it a little bit with you guys here, and then we will jump into a time lapse of the whole finished build because I don't think we want to sit here for 6 hours or however long it takes me to build this. So we will finish making this flat here, and the reason I kind of went with the blocks I did is because they kind of blend nicely together for brown blocks. I wasn't actually going to use packed mud because like the rooted dirt actually blends better together with the blocks I chose, but rooted dirt seems a lot harder to gather than mud was, even though they're both kind of a pain to gather. So I went with mud instead because I don't exactly have a supply of rooted dirt at the moment, and there are no shops that sell it that I know of. Maybe later down the road we will replace the mud with the rooted dirt, but for now we're going to kind of work with it. But we're going to take these blocks and head on over in between our two towers, and we are actually going to kind of mix these in as we go across our walkway here. We're just kind of do just your standard mix in. I'm just going to do kind of rows kind of vertically across our gateway here. I'm not gonna do any planned out like 4 blocks this, 4 blocks that. I'm just gonna mix in a bunch of blocks and see how it looks in the end. But we're gonna go ahead and continue clearing out this dirt here to kind of give that flat surface. You can kind of see I started placing some of that mix in blocks, but it wasn't quite flat enough for this little area we're gonna do here, so we're just gonna finish mining out these blocks real quick. Now, the concrete powder isn't something that you typically will see used, or something you usually think of when you make roads, but the texture of concrete powder kind of resembles the dirt look, even though it's a little bit lighter and more of a brown. But when you are mixing in dirt paths like this, the concrete powder will kind of give that that little bit of color change while still keeping the same texture that we have with the rest of the dirt blocks. So concrete powder is just something I chose, and it's easy to get on the server where I can just get a bunch of it in bulk and not have to worry about gathering too much of it. So I thought concrete powder would be a really nice road color for us to use today. But I'm not going to be able to finish the entire road today because that is a lot of road, and I still don't know where I'm going to put all of our buildings quite yet. So we're just going to do a good section of the road to kind of give us a good feel for the road, and then work with our little color palette here just to kind of make sure this is something we want to stick with. I am really liking the mix of colors that we have here, so I'm sure that we will end up keeping it here. But I don't want to do too much road because if there's a building somewhere that I really want to build and the road's in the way, we'll have to break the entire road, and I don't really want to be doing that. So we're just gonna put in enough road to kind of see how it looks here. But as you can kind of see, I'm kind of mixing in these colors here, and we can kind of see how they're blending together. They are a little bit different in shades, where most gradients they usually use more of a similar color shade. You can see that packed mud is a lot lighter, which is why I wanted to use that rooted dirt in the first place, but I didn't have a large supply of it, so I substituted the packed mud as the next best bet in this case. But the highlights on the road aren't anything bad, and I kind of like them even though they're not really natural feeling. But as we kind of go, we're going to slowly curve this road around because we do have those hills there and we don't want to dig too much hills here. The road won't be completely flat. We will go up and down with the landscape, but it will be mostly flat where the little staircases, as you call them, aren't going to be too thin. They're going to be nice and long, so we're going to be able to do plenty of little details, like we might add some little market carts, some little people walking, or just some other things that will kind of add life to this road as we progress through the series. I do want to add a bunch of custom trees to our build as well, and those will kind of be on either side of the road, and I do want to add them up by our watchtower as well. We might get to that in next episode, I'm not quite sure yet. Custom trees aren't something that I typically do or I have done in the past because they're not really my best. I'm not the best at custom trees, but I definitely want to add those into our area as much as I can this time, and I kind of want to learn how to build them. So we will definitely be looking into doing some of those. I want to kind of do some of the custom pine trees for sure, just because I like how they are going to look compared to our towers, and the tall pine trees will definitely look nice next to like our watchtower or even some little baby pine trees in our little pathway here. But as we're kind of continue building our pathway, we can kind of see we're adding some of that podzol to the edges as well. This kind of gives that sense of a little bit of gradient on the edges, kind of making it darker, brings more attention towards the center of the path, and also kind of outlines the path without changing the color palette too much. So the podzol's definitely a nice block to use for this. I'm kind of laying out to see where I want it to curve because I don't want too sharp of curves when I'm building these paths, but I kind of want more of the subtle curves, just so overall we can kind of see it curving to the right here. But it's definitely a nice start to our pathway here. From a distance, that packed mud does blend a little bit more. It's not the best blending, but it's definitely going to be a nice color for this path here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some of that azalea leaves, and we're just going to put them on the edges like we did with the podzol. It is going to cover the podzol up a little bit, but if we kind of get close enough to look at the details, we will see those little podzol bits sticking out in the garden or even underneath those leaves there. And then we'll finish this side up here, and we'll do the same thing on this side. I do kind of want to add some little stone bits as well to kind of give like a little bit of a garden bed feel on the edges of our pathway here, just because adding that little bit of greenery is going to help our pathway a lot, especially when we want that sense of life throughout our builds here. But we're just going to finish this edge here. Now, large pathways like this is also something I haven't really worked with before in survival, or neither really in creative because I don't really play creative too much. But I really like doing all these new things this series because I feel like I'm able to extend my building knowledge as well as work with some new building techniques as well. And doing things like this, it might seem simple, but it's definitely something to add into your builds. If you have large scales like this, where you have a bunch of open land and you kind of want to connect those builds together, where, like, as you can see, this gateway is very far away from our original watchtower, but adding a path to the watchtower connects the builds together even though they are separate builds. And then we will add a ton of little market houses as well as a little bit of a village on this side. So as we walk through our pathway, everything kind of loads together and it will kind of feel as one big kingdom as we build up all of the houses, the castle, and all the little bits that make a kingdom come together. But in here we should have some stone left over from our gateway, and we are going to actually make some stone slabs and buttons. The little buttons act like pebbles. If you've ever used stone buttons, I'm sure this is pretty far known now that people have been using stone buttons as little pebbles. I have been doing this for a very long time, but it's the little details that really count in big builds like this. You can also see I added those little grass bits on the coarse dirt there. That just kind of gives us more of that greenery, and then you can kind of see where the people walk on the path, where like the center of the path there's no grass, which kind of means that people have been walking in the center of the path versus on the sides here where the garden bits are. And then the grass is kind of popping up because of that. And since we do have a dirt road, you know, grass might be growing on the road a little bit, but I think that this really adds that green feel that we will need for this road as a completed whole. And then adding in those grass blocks is kind of the same effect, giving it that little bit of green color that this road may need to kind of break up the dirt a little bit, or more of the dirt color. And then it's kind of like the grass is growing back on the road with these little grass blocks there. And then we can kind of see how it's looking so far. I do want to add those stone slabs in still, I think, so I'll have to grab some of those. But what we are going to do now is we are going to actually jump into a time lapse and we are going to finish this road up real quick. So I will catch everybody back in a little bit with a completed path. The path is officially done. Well, it's not done, but the section that we just did is finally complete. And I am in love with how this path design came out. I love all the little garden beds here, the pebbles, and just how well the dirt really mixed together with the little grass bits here. I am loving how this came together. This will be the last project of today's episode, and I hope all of you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you all had a great day, and thank you all so much for watching, and we will catch you next week with a brand new project. Thank you so much, and goodbye.